Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 13.4 has been out to developers for quite a few days now and then finally released to public beta testers. And I've been using the developer version, which is the exact same as the public beta version, on my iPhone 11 Pro Max primarily. I also have it on the iPhone 6s Plus, my iPhone XR, and iPad Pro, as well as the iPhone SE. And so I wanted to talk about my experience because it's actually changed quite a bit over the past week or so. And the other thing as well is there's a bunch of features that I actually had to make two separate videos about. So if you haven't seen those, I'll link those in the description, as well as you can click a little button up here and check out those videos, because there's actually quite a few features in this particular update. And it's turning out to be really good for such an early build of the update, meaning I expect probably 4 betas at this point. And I'll talk more about the release date and battery in a little while. Now, the first thing is, at first this was really buggy to the point where it was almost a pain to use it, and I switched to a different phone for a little while, for a day or so, because Messages just wasn't working properly. And what I mean by that is anytime I tried to send a message to a group text, or they tried to send one to me, or someone else tried to send me a message, it would come through, but it would come through duplicated. So let me show you what I mean. So at the top here, you'll see this is a screen capture from one of my text messages, and you'll see they both say thanks. And this is actually sent by this group and then popped up as someone else, even though it was part of this group. And every time someone would text me, it could be any one of these people, it would pop in as a duplicate and it would show up at the top. And then I couldn't text at all until I actually force closed the app, swiped it off the screen, and then started over. The next time someone would text me, it would do the exact same thing. Now, what I found that fixed this was to actually remove yourself from the group. So leave the conversation and then go back in. That seemed to completely resolve the issue. So I'm not sure what happened with that group text, but if you have old group text where that's happening, you can leave that conversation in the group text and then go back in. Deleting the group text didn't help. It was just removing yourself from the conversation of that group text. And that seemed to rectify the problem. So that's finally fixed. I can use this fine without any issues. The other problem I had was with LTE and Wi-Fi. And what I mean by that is my connectivity was fine. It didn't really matter switching from LTE or Wi-Fi or back and forth. It really made no difference. The problem was occasionally it would be really slow. So if I'm on Apple's website here and I load a web page, you'll see it loaded nice and fast. If I go to buy, it should do the same. And before it would just sort of hiccup and not do anything. Now all of a sudden it's working fine. So it took a few days and now it's working perfectly. In fact, I'd say this is less buggy finally for me after a few days than any other version of iOS 13. So this turns out to be really good for me on my 11 Pro Max. And battery life for me on this has actually been pretty good. Now, like I said, I've only been using it for the time it's been out. So we'll wait for it to load here. And battery health is at 100%. Updates don't really affect battery health. I explained that in a different video as well. But updates don't really affect it. It's basically just rechecking your physical battery health. But here you can see the actual screen on time. So this was the last 24 hours. Let's go to the last day. This was yesterday. And you'll see I only used it 2 hours and 1 minute and had 1 hour and 10 minutes of screen off time. Screen off time is when it's playing music in the background with the screen turned off or something along those lines. And you'll see I used a little bit over a quarter of the battery. So maybe if I was to continue using this, I'd get about 8 hours of screen on time. That wasn't particularly great. But for the most part, I'm finding that my usage is usually a little bit low. I'm using my Mac and my iPad more and more. And so you'll see here I had 3 hours of screen on time, 3 minutes of screen off time, and I used less than a quarter of the battery. So again, if I kept using it that day, we bring that out to a full day or a full 100% of usage. 3 times 4, we get 12 hours of screen on time. And that's what I'm seeing, and that's what I'm hearing from a lot of you. So I took a look at the YouTube community poll that I ran last week for Beta 1 when the developer beta was out. And maybe if you want to see another one, I'll do a follow-up this weekend on Sunday like I normally do, unless there's another update, then we'll cover that one. But if you want to see more, or you can just vote on this one, but this one has 10,000 votes. And so with all of these different feature ads and things, I would expect it to be a little bit more buggy than it is, but it seems to be really good. Now, when I did the initial follow-up, there was about 100 comments and about 3,000 less votes or so. And so now we have 12% of people saying it's great and only 3% saying it's terrible. 5% are saying there's some bugs. So these numbers are pretty low at this point, and I think it's a really good update. Initially, I was telling people do not update to this version because there's issues, but as far as performance and everything, so battery is good. Performance-wise, I've had 0 hiccups, no slowdowns, scrolling through anything, opening apps. You'll see I don't do a whole lot of gaming or anything on here, but opening apps, social media apps, the App Store, it's nice and fast, and RAM management has been really good. I haven't had a whole lot of reloads with the exception of YouTube, which seems to be pretty common in general. So normally I can open about 20 different applications and then I can open an app and it will reload. So that's pretty good. I can multitask without any issues, but with the exception of YouTube, it'll reload after maybe a few minutes or 5 apps or so. So I'm not sure why that is, but it seems to be fairly common. Now the update has also been great on older devices. So if you have an iPhone 6s Plus or newer, then I wouldn't expect any issues as well. The performance is going to be the same. Loading applications is going to be the same. And if you've had any issues with performance with 13 or 13.3, I would expect it to be much better with 13.4. You'll see, even though it's a little bit older, things seem to load pretty quickly. And if you're using applications such as Minecraft or using it for gaming, it's still plenty fast. It loads fine. I wouldn't expect any slowdowns on older devices. We're seeing this on the iPhone XR, the iPhone 7, the 7 Plus, the iPhone 10. All of them seem to be pretty solid with iOS 13.4. So other than that, it seems to be a pretty good update. I've had no bugs, no crashes, and only the issues I mentioned with messages, which was pretty big, but now that it's resolved, it's fine. And of course, if I'm having issues, I need to report them to feedback, and hopefully you're doing the same, and then Apple can prioritize those issues. Now let's take a look at a couple different comments, because quite a few of you commented before. I'll just show you a couple because I'm not going to go through a bunch of these, but I just wanted to show you that a lot of people are saying it's really good. We'll go down to the last day or so, and you'll see someone said it's running great on both my iPhone 8 Plus and 2014 iPad Pro. You'll see someone says really terrible. I have the notification center in my iPhone 7. When I open the control center, it's horrible. I've had no issues with notifications or anything like that. Of course, I have it on Do Not Disturb during the video, but really everything's working fine for me as far as that. So I'm not sure what that is, but some people will have bugs, and a hard reboot could help that as well. So you'll see a couple people are saying a rotation bug on iPhone 8 Plus. And someone else is saying, I have Wi-Fi issues on 13.1.1 on my XR, so thinking of updating to the beta. I wouldn't say that Wi-Fi is any better at this point. I've noticed that with this update and previous iOS 13 updates, such as iOS 13.3, iOS 13.3.1, I've had issues with it connecting to Wi-Fi and actually being fast. I'm not sure what protocol changed, but there's something that's definitely different. I use Eero routers at home, and those usually are really great. They're great with other devices still. It's just the iOS devices, especially my iPad when using the YouTube app. If I use the YouTube app on my iPad or my iPhone, it's slow and sometimes has to reload. But if I go into the browser, such as Safari, it doesn't have to do that, and it's 1080p all the time. So I'm not sure what that's about. But that's really it for this particular update. It's working great now. I would highly recommend it. However, be aware that there's bugs, of course, because it's a beta. It's an early beta. And as far as the release date, I would expect it to be sometime in March, probably, when we expect an event. So somewhere around that point, we'll see new emoji probably to bring it up to speed with the new Unicode standards, and as well as maybe some new products from Apple in March as well. So we won't see any major new features until iOS 14 in June, and that's really all there is to say about this particular update. 13.4 is solid. I would recommend it at this point if you don't mind dealing with bugs. Otherwise, I would wait for maybe the final release or a couple betas in before giving it a try, since you can't really go back without a computer. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Of course, I'll link this wallpaper as I always do. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. Since you stuck around to the end, I thought I'd ask you a quick question. Are you enjoying these follow-ups? Would you like to see more of them? And what devices would you like to see more of? So while the updates are pretty much the same across all devices, if you'd like to see the XR more than, say, the 11 Pro Max, let me know in the comments below. And thanks again for watching this far into the video.